Hi there, Mazda owners. Today in your 2020 Mazda CX-5, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Curt's 4-pole flat trailer connector vehicle wiring harness. And this is what our wiring looks like when it's installed. It is a 4-pole flat trailer connector that is designed to live inside the vehicle. When you're ready to use it, it drapes out the back. What I like about this is that it protects your harness from the elements when it's not in use. And then when you're ready to use it, you can just pull it out. And some people seem to think that hanging it out over the back here is going to cause damage to the wiring, but the weather stripping there does have plenty of space in it to where it's not going to crush the wiring, and the weather strip actually kind of clamps it just enough to hold it in place to keep it from sliding around, and it doesn't cause any damage to it. And honestly, it's my preferred way. It's a little bit more work because you got to pull it out the back, but it actually will last a lot longer staying inside. But when it is outside, there is an included dust cap that comes with it, so you could leave it here out the back. Like maybe you're moving around a couple of trailers, doing a little bit of work to where you're plugging it in and out a bunch of times over the day. When you're moving from one to the other, you can take your dust cap here and slide it around the safety chain loop here on the back of your hitch, and that'll hold it up to keep it off the pavement while it is outside here. Now, our 4-pole connector does provide us with everything that we need as far as lighting is concerned to keep us DOT compliant in all states. This includes our left turn signal, right turn signal, tail lamps, and brake lamps. The harness here does have a module that's integrated into the harness, and this module is, to me, one of the best parts of going with a harness like this rather than trying to wire something up yourself, because this module has custom fit connectors that plug into the taillight assemblies on each side, and the module then monitors the signals that's being sent to those taillights from your vehicle. Whenever it sees those signals, it'll then reproduce those signals and send it out on the 4-pole connector here. What's nice about that, since the module is reproducing those signals using its own dedicated power wire that is included with the kit, is that if you have any faults on your trailer, such as a short to ground, rather than opening the fuse that would affect the lighting here on your vehicle, it'll just open the fuse for the module that's inside of our harness here. We can repair the faults on our trailer, replace the fuse, and then we're back up and running again. And at no point in time did it affect any of the functionality of our vehicle. And then when you're done using your connector, it is easy to store. Just open up the back. You can wind up the excess and then just store it underneath your compartment here. I like to take the dust cap and wrap it around the excess wiring there, and that kind of helps hold it all together while it's staying here in the back. And when you are using it, you'll want to set it up just like this to where it is hanging out the back. Again, this weather stripping is not going to damage it. You do just want to make sure you avoid the striker here at the middle. That's the only part that could damage the wiring. And as we shut it, we'll see that it'll pinch it right there under the weather stripping. You can adjust the length as necessary, but once it clamps down, it does hold it pretty solid at the length that you have set it to. We'll begin our installation here at the back of the vehicle with the lift gate open. We'll need to remove the interior trim panels here at the back so we can access the wiring, so we can tie our new systems in. So we're just going to remove the panels that are just sitting in here first. You're going to have a couple of trays. Just take those out and set them aside. The ones on the side also removed. Just pull up. There's a little loop on there to pull up to get those removed. There's one on the other side just like this. We'll set those aside as well. Next, we'll remove the foam components that's holding our spare tire tools. If you have a subwoofer installed on yours, the electrical wiring is going to run up through there, so you want to make sure you disconnect that. It just pulls out of the foam, and then we'll press in on the release tab here, and then disconnect the wiring. Spare tire, we can just tuck that in over there, and then we'll tuck this one out of the way over on this side. And then these components will just lift up and set out of the way as well. We're then going to remove the trim piece here at the back on the threshold. There's 2 pins, one on each side. We're going to take our flat-bladed screwdriver, and we're going to get underneath the center tab of the pin there. It'll pop out once you get underneath of it, and then the whole pin will come out after that. You just pop it out of there. We'll get the one on the other side, and then we can just pull the entire panel up. It does have some pins that hold it in, so you're going to have a little bit of resistance. So just kind of pull up, and then just work your way down. We'll set this aside as well. Underneath our trim piece, where our side panel connects, you'll have 1 pin located there. We're going to remove that the same way, and then we're also going to remove the one in the same location over on the other side. Located behind the handle here for releasing your seats on the side panel, There's a screw that's located underneath a small plastic cover. You'll see there's a small little notch that will allow a small flat-bladed screwdriver to fit in. And the screwdriver is going to fit in that little notch, and then you can pop out the cover there. It doesn't come all the way off, it's attached to it, but you can see that it's now out of the way. And there's a Phillips head screw located behind it. We're just going to remove that screw. And then we'll remove the one over on the other side as well. You'll have tow hooks located on each of these panels as well. We'll need to remove those. The center of our tow hook does pop out, so if we just take our screwdriver and get behind the panel there, we can pop it up, and that'll expose the fastener underneath. We'll then use our 10mm socket to remove the fastener. We'll take the whole assembly out, and then remove the one on the other side. If we go towards the front of the vehicle, you'll see here we also have another kind of like a tow hook. We're going to pull up on that, and you'll see that there is another fastener underneath. We'll use a 10mm socket once again. And once again, we'll take the one out on the other side. If we go directly up from where our tie-down hook was, we're going to see a screw located in the panel here. We'll take that out with our Phillips head bit and get the one on the other side as well. So now we can start getting our panels pulled out some. So we're going to grab the weather stripping first, and we're just going to peel it back, going up our panel. It just pulls off of there, just like that. Then we can get behind the panel and start releasing it from the vehicle. We only need it to come out far enough to where we can access the tail lights. And here you can see we've got it out just enough to where we can get behind the assembly to access our wiring. We did have to pop out one pin here at the top on our top piece, as well as a couple of the pins where it goes into this top piece. Now that we have access behind each of our panels, we can start installing our new harness. So you can see here our harness is going to plug in line in between our existing taillight connector. That's going to be located right here. Here's the wire going up. It's a black connector that connects to a white connector. We're going to press in on the release tab on the black connector and then pull up on the white connector to disconnect it. We can then just grab our new harness here. We're going to plug the taillight assembly into our harness, and then we're going to plug our harness back into the vehicle wiring. You also see here we've got a ring terminal over on this side. This is our ground wire. There's a ground stud located right there. So we're going to remove this using a 10mm socket. We'll slide our bolt through it and then reattach it. We'll now take the green wire that's connected to our module. We're going to route it across to the passenger side. We'll follow our factory wiring, and we'll be zip tying it along the way. I like to hold off on my zip ties though until I've kind of tested things out before I finalize where I want it to stay permanently. So we're just routing it over, and it's going to plug in on this side exactly the same as it did over on the other side. And here you can see on this side we've got it plugged together. It's exactly the same, it's just with the green wire instead of the other colors. Next, we need to hook up our power wire and connect and run it up to our battery. First, we got to figure out how we're going to get this wire all the way up to the battery in the engine compartment. This grommet located right here is an easy way to get our wire routed outside so we can get it routed up. I'm just taking my flat-bladed screwdriver, I'm getting underneath the grommet, and I'm just kind of pulling it up. Now that I've got it pulled up, I'm going to take this grommet and I'm just going to run a drill bit through the center so I can pass my wire through the grommet, and then we can reinstall it. So now I'm going to take my black wire, I'm going to go from underneath, because you can just reach around the bottom and you should be able to feel that hole right there. It's pretty easy to reach around the bumper. You can already see my finger poking through right here. So you shouldn't even really need to see it to be able to find it. We're going to poke the black wire up. I'm going to grab the other end, and we're just going to bring some up. I'm going to slide my modified grommet on the black wire. I'm going to run that down and then reinstall it. We'll now make our connection to the very large section of wire that you get in your kit of black wire to the black wire on our module. I like to strip back extra wire from what's already pre-stripped on the module. So I do like to strip additional wire back. You can see there's not a whole lot there. So we're not taking a bunch more additional wire off of it, just enough to make sure that we can make a good connection and we're not going to crimp onto our insulation there. And so I'm just taking the butt connector that comes included with our kit. We're sliding it over the black wire on the module that we just stripped back a little bit, crimping it down. We'll strip back the black wire now that we had routed in. And we're going to make that connection over to the other side. I do like to just kind of figure out how I'm going to orient my module here so I don't have my wires too tangled up. So we can kind of put it like this, and it looks like that's going to keep things pretty nice. You can also twist your wires to make them a little bit easier when inserting them into the butt connector. Now that we've got all the connections made here at the back, we're going to take the remaining black wire that we had just added onto our module. We're going to route it to the vehicle battery, where we'll make our connection up there. I'm going to go ahead and route this wire now, and then I'll show you the path I took to get it there. When routing your wiring, you want to make sure you avoid anything moving, such as your suspension or steering, anything excessively hot, like your exhaust. Whenever possible, follow your factory wiring, because it's already located in a way that's not going to get damaged. Next, we're going to take our module here, and we're going to mount it in its location. We're going to be just sticking it right here on the wall behind our compartment. I just put some isopropyl alcohol on a rag, and I'm just kind of cleaning up the area to help ensure that we have good adhesion. We're also going to just swipe off the back of the module just a little bit. And in your kit, you're going to have some double-sided adhesive. We're going to be using this to secure the module. So we're just going to peel off the adhesive backing on one side. We'll then apply that to the back side of our module. We can then peel off the adhesive backing on the other side. And then we're just going to bring the module over here, find a nice flat area where it can adhere to. This looks like a pretty good spot right here. So we're just going to go ahead and hold it there for about 20 to 25 seconds to ensure we have good adhesion. When reinstalling your paneling, your 4-pole connector you want to route towards the center of the vehicle. This harness is designed to live inside the vehicle. When you want to use it, you just drape it out the back. So we're putting it over here towards our spare tire, and we just kind of followed our factory wiring over here. When we go to put this threshold on here, we're going to leave the wiring exposed so that way it's still accessible. We took our wiring and we routed it down through our grommet, and then we began following the factory wiring here, going above our rear suspension. We do leave the rear wiring temporarily as we go above the rear suspension. We make sure that we do stay all the way up on top of the suspension until we come out the other side. Once we come out the other side here, we come down following our strap that holds up our fuel tank. And from there we just stay above this panel here, and we just route it above this panel going forward all the way forward. For the most part, you can just poke the wiring around the attachment points and tuck it up underneath the panel. I did remove a couple of the fasteners along the way just so I could get the wiring in more easily, and then I just put the fastener back in after taking it out and put the wire up. So we stay all the way underneath there until we come out right here. You can see where we're coming out here at the front of the undershield. From here, we went ahead and attached it to a fish wire we're going to use to pull it up into the engine compartment. We're using a piece of airline tubing, but at home a great object to do this would be a metal coat hanger. You can take one of those apart and from up top just push it down, and that way you can tape your wiring to it like we did, and it makes it much easier to pull it up than it is to try to feed the wiring from down here up top. So we're just pulling our wire up. It's going to route next to our battery here. So when you're routing it up, we're going to follow the same rules up here. Just try to avoid anything that's moving, anything excessively hot. So now that we've got it pulled up, I'm just going to find the path that I want. I'm going to run some zip ties on it to make sure that it's going to stay out of the way from any of the hotter components that are located back in that area. So now that we've got our wire run and routed to where it's avoiding anything that's excessively hot or moving, we need to connect it to the battery positive. And that's located right here. So if we lift up on the positive cover there and then pull out on the tab, we can then pull up on the cover, and that'll expose our connections where we can connect it right here to the positive post. We're going to be hooking it to this post right over here. It's just going to give us the cleanest connection. Also included in your kit, you're going to receive a fuse harness. And this this component here. We're going to strip back each end of this fuse harness. On one side of the fuse harness, we're going to be putting a butt connector, and this one I did upgrade to a heat shrink butt connector. It's not the one that comes included with the kit. Since this is outside the vehicle, we want to be able to seal this up to ensure a long-lasting connection. You can get heat shrink butt connectors here at etrailer, so you can add this to your cart on checkout. It is a worthwhile upgrade. On the other side of our fuse harness, we're going to be attaching the ring terminal that comes included with our kit. Just poke that through there and crimp it down. And next I like to attach the fuse harness, so we're going to go ahead and hook that to that positive post there. We're going to use our 10mm socket to remove the nut. We can then take our fuse harness, we're going to just slide it over the stud and then reinstall the nut. Now that we've got that connected, we can take our black wire here and trim it to length. I always like to leave a little bit of excess for the fuse harness here just so it's easy to access, and so we've got some for future repairs. So I'm just kind of getting an idea of where I want to tuck the harness. I'm going to be putting it probably right down in this area. So we're going to cut our black wire at about this point here to make sure we've got the excess to route it where we want. Once you've trimmed off the excess black wire, you can go ahead and strip back the black wire. Our black wire then is going to hook to the other side of our heat shrink butt connector. We'll then take our heat gun and shrink down our butt connector. We can now take the fuse that comes in our kit, insert it into our harness, and now I recommend testing everything out and making sure it's working properly. If everything's working properly, we'll reinstall our panels in reverse order. But I always like to check it first here, just in case you find an issue, you don't have to take stuff back apart again to insert it. Cold weather does make the plastic on this a little brittle. It's a pretty cold day today, so it is a little bit harder to snap it shut. When it's warmer out, it is a little easier to close. So we've plugged in our tester here. You could also plug in your trailer to verify proper lights, but I do recommend a tester just in case you have faults on your trailers. It could give you a false indication that something's wrong with your wiring when it's actually a fault on your trailer. So we want to make sure we have our left turn signal, right turn signal, tail lamps, and brake lamps. With everything working properly, we're ready to reinstall all our panels and then hit the road. And that completes our installation of Curt's 4-pole flat trailer connector vehicle wiring harness on our 2020 Mazda CX-5.